April of this year, a computer glitch affected thousands of STAR exams. And the week of March 28th, there was a technical issue that caused students to lose their answers on state standardized tests. This affected more than 14,000 computerized tests. As a student, I've had plenty experience with these tests, and I know exactly what they're like. But first, let's get a clear definition on what a standardized test is. A standardized test is any form of test that requires all test takers to answer the same questions or a selection of the questions in the same way. Now that we have a good interpretation on what a standardized test is, I feel like they should be discontinued for good and everywhere. It may seem like I just want them discontinued because I'm a teenager or I hate school or I'm lazy, but I want them discontinued for a number of reasons. One being they teach us nothing, like at all. What have you learned from standardized testing?
I learned that we shouldn't be taking that. It's useless.
What have you learned from standardized testing?
Nothing.
What have you learned from standardized testing?
Absolutely nothing.
What have you learned from standardized testing?
I've learned how to take a test that does not apply to my life.
What have you learned from standardized testing?
Absolutely nothing. It is completely worthless just to have a test over something that rates just a certain specific area of education when we can be really smart in other fields.
At the end of the year, we all know what's going to happen. The monotonous lectures about stuff we've already learned and the thick review pack is killing so many trees. The creativity in the classroom is ultimately taken out. Why should teachers exclude time out of their curriculum to teach stuff that we already learned? How do you feel about reteaching and reviewing at the end of the year for standardized tests?
I think in general, reviewing is a good idea, but I would think that reviewing is useful if you're reviewing something that students are going to be using in real life situations. If it's something they need for college or for their jobs. But if it's just something that they need to know for the standardized tests, like testing strategies, I don't know how I feel about spending class time on that.
How do you feel about review at the end of the year?
Well, I truly disagree with it because I feel like you should enjoy the rest of your year and not be pressured to take so many standardized tests.
Don't get me wrong, I do hate testing, but I'm not the only one who feels this way. Hill, how do you feel about standardized testing?
That's so
hate it.
exciting.
How do you feel about standardized testing?
I've learned a lot of things, actually. One, that I can easily fail school, and two, how to hold my bladder for 4 hours.
Okay, Miss Massey, how do you feel about standardized testing?
I do think there should be some sort of standard for students or some sort of gauge of how people are doing throughout the country, but I do not feel like standardized testing is being executed well in our state, especially since this is the only state I have any experience with standardized testing. So I cannot say I'm 100% in support of it with the way it currently is going, but I do think it could be improved and used much better and more effectively.
How do you feel about standardized testing?
Well, I don't like it. I think it's stupid, because first of all, it limits, the teacher's ability to teach. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, because here we're learning this and this, and it's only because the teachers are required to do that because of the state. That's one. Second, I think that, the people that like to, the people that can't take tests at all, but people are really smart on paper, they can take a quick homework assignment, a quick quiz, and get 100s on it, like they always do. But then it comes to standardized testing, that might not be so good at that. So they'll fail at that, and the state looks at that like, you need to do something else with your life. So.
And yet, I and millions of other children in the country still have to take these tests. This problem is so big, it even tackles with our economy. The government spends so much money creating these tests, and every time the name changes, so does the price tag. Did you know that STAR exams are handed out to children who don't speak English or have learning disabilities, and that they're all graded the same? How do you feel about children who don't speak English and have learning disabilities taking the standardized tests?
I think that puts them at a disadvantage because the standardized tests are, designed for kids who have been in the American education system their whole life and their whole lives, and so if they haven't been brought up in our education system, it puts them at a severe disadvantage. Plus, also the tests are in English, and for a lot of these kids, English is a second, third, fourth language for them, and so it really isn't fair. And I think that it frustrates them. It causes a lot of frustration for the kids because they feel dumb when in fact they aren't. It's just because they don't know the language. So to answer your question, I don't think it's fair, and I think it puts them at a serious disadvantage.
How do you feel about students who don't speak English and have learning disabilities? How do you feel about them taking standardized testing?
Yeah, well, I think it feels like kind of a penalty for kids who learn differently to make them take a test that their minds don't gravitate toward. And also, with kids who don't speak English, I think it is absurd that we're not allowed to give them even more modifications than we do on a standardized test. I think we should be focusing on getting their English where it needs to be in order for them to function in society before we worry about them passing some kind of standardized test to graduate from high school.
If you know your brother, your sister, your student, your child is not mentally capable of taking this test and being successful at it, why are we purposely failing children? With all these cons to standardized testing, what are the solutions? I have compiled many and thorough solutions for this problem. One would be an emotional and social skills survey. You need social skills as an adult to communicate with others, and you need emotional skills to create good relationships. If, as a child until you were in high school, were surveyed every year to test these skills, I'm sure America would be in a better place. If you didn't reach the certain skill level you needed to be in, someone can come and help you with this. You don't need to be held back, and it's a win-win situation. The next one will be a portfolio-based assessment. In all of my classes, I'm pretty sure I have a portfolio with like quizzes, research papers, report cards, and plenty of other things. This is similar to that. The teachers will create a portfolio that has students like major tests, major quizzes, major research papers, and send it all to the state or district. This way, the state can see how progressively the student has grown throughout the year, and you just won't be graded on this one test. The last resolution I have for this issue is to have more computers in the testing room. Gasp, I know. Although it's not common, there should be more computers in the test room. It will make the test-taking process more interactive. And I've seen it before. Teachers know how to program computers where students can't look up answers or anything like that. Plus, afterwards, kids have something to do on the computer than to just stare at a blank page or read a book or go to sleep. Afterwards, students have something to do.
Sorry, is that bad?
No, it was okay.
So, I was like, can I walk in the background? She's still going. I'll just try it. Sorry.
It's okay. Chauncey,
Yes.
how do you feel about standardized testing?
I'm glad you asked that question. See, I don't think it's necessary. Because if it was necessary, start over again.
Test. Then go ahead.
I broke your stride, didn't I?
Yeah, I was doing good. I recorded this so many times.
I know, you looked at me, you're like...
Chauncey,
Hey, how you doing?
how do you feel about standardized testing?
First of all, I think it's crap. I don't even think that it's necessary for the world. I mean, we're smart, okay? Got the tests over here and over here. I just started over. I don't like that.